I'm big into Yngwie Malmsteen. Anybody that listens to my podcast know I'm a big Yngwie Malmsteen nut. Let's start with Yngwie. I love that album, man. Facing the Animal. Great production. Catchy songs, but they're heavy, but they're melodic. It's just good stuff. What do you think of that one?
I think I was kind of surprised that I was allowed to co-write as much as I did on the album, and I think it turned out really, really well. I mean, I worked really hard on what I did on the album while I was there as well, because it was a big gig for me at the time, and I really wanted to do a good impression, of course. And so we worked pretty hard on that album, and we had Chris Sangridis producing as well, and of course Cozy Powell on drums, and it was very inspiring to work with those people as well.
Yeah, that was the first time I had ever heard your voice on anything, and I was blown away because I thought your voice was killer. Fit the music really, really well.
Yeah. Well, just like Yngwie, we brought up with the same music, He's like an old Blackmore Purple fan. It was the same for me as well, so... And at the time, I think that he was kind of happy to get like a Swedish guy into the band, a Swedish singer into the band. Yeah. And he was pretty motivated with his ideas and everything. So it was a good vibe, and on tour as well. So I mean, for me it was a great experience. And I haven't heard all the albums he's done after that, but I kind of get the feeling that maybe Facing the Animal was the last album that was like 100% properly produced by a producer, and all that stuff. Because after that, kind of, I don't know. I think Facing the Animal, at least, it's a good sounding album, and it's got a couple of really good songs as well.
Yeah. One cool one that stands out for the vocal performances is Alone in Paradise, man. It's got like a ton of voices. You must have had to overlap yourself quite a few times there.
Well, it's not me. That's Jolene Turner. No, I remember, I think that was like an old idea that Yngwie had probably from the Odyssey time. So if I remember right, he already had that title, Alone in Paradise, and he wanted to try that song out again. And I'm almost sure that he had old Jolene Turner backing vocals. And maybe I just copied those and redid them all again.
Okay.
It might have been that I did that. But I remember specifically that song was an old Odyssey thing. And maybe I redid kind of all the backing vocals like Joe did once or something. Mm-hmm. It was something like that at least. So that was like an old song. And it was the same with Another Time, Another Place as well.
Okay.
That was like an old song that Yngwie never, but he didn't have like a melody for it. He had the riff, but then I tried out, I did the melodies on that one and the lyrics to it, and suddenly he felt like, now it's a cool song, So a couple of the ideas were actually old ideas.
That's funny because, I always kind of felt like Facing the Animal had a little bit of an Odyssey vibe, with like really, catchy, well-written songs.
Yeah.
So that's interesting to hear that some of that stuff might have been kicking around from that era. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And Facing the Animal was like a totally different story because I remember Yngwie had like a DAT tape with a bunch of different riffs and stuff, ideas that he gave to me. And I took that home to Sweden, and I heard the riff of Facing the Animal, and I heard the chorus riff that he had. So I kind of felt pretty, so I came up with the melody and the title and the lyrics for that song. And I came back to the States for the next session, and we recorded it. And no one was really super 100% liking it. Chris Sangridis was a bit like he didn't know if he was going to use it on the album. While I was like, we need a groovy song like this. This is cool, It's kind of different from the other songs. So we recorded it, but I didn't know if it was going to end up in the album or not. Then, like a month later or something, Yngwie calls me up, and he's like, guess we got a name for the album. Guess what? And what's the name? It's Facing the Animal. And I was like, wow, okay. So we're going to use that song? Yeah, it's awesome. It's great. Okay, cool. So that was my lyric and my title, actually.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I was really happy that they actually listened a couple of more times to the song, I guess, and got the groove and got the the idea that I had.
Now, your time in the band was kind of short-lived. Like a lot of Yngwie singers, you just did the one album. What happened? Was it just a mutual thing, like it was time to move on, or what happened there?
Well, I was mostly in contact with Jim Lewis all the time regarding contracts and stuff, and Jim was his manager at the time. And I told Jim from the start that I just want to write a contract for one album and one tour to start with, and then we see what it feels like. Mm-hmm. And when we did the tour in '98, we did a couple of summer shows as well, and then we did release the live album and everything. And I kind of felt that everyone in the band more or less wanted to leave the band or wanted to do something else. Mm-hmm. And I also got the vibe that since Yngwie didn't really sell as much as he normally would have in Japan and such, he kind of had to cut the tour short as well, mm-hmm. because he didn't have enough money. Because normally he makes, at the time at least, he made a lot of money in Japan, and he could kind of pay for expenses with that money for certain different other markets where he didn't go plus, so to speak. And so I kind of think that when we were going to work on a new album, I kind of knew that I would not have as much input, because he wanted to have more publishing on the songs and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I felt that several of the guys in the band would not be there either. And so I kind of felt that it would probably not be the same kind of situation for the next album. And of course, Cozy died during the time as well. And I was very much like, okay, I did the contract and that was great and that was cool. But, we're all more or less left, I think, except for Mats, the keyboard player, maybe. I don't remember. But it was like I never really spoke to Yngwie about it. I more spoke to Jim about it, the manager. And everyone was cool about that. It was like Yngwie was so used to have new people all the time anyway. So, yeah. So it wasn't like anything that happened between us or anything like that. It was just like I kind of felt that this was a great album. It was great doing the tour and everything. It was super cool. But I kind of felt if I do another album, it will probably not be as much fun, and I would probably not have as much input either. Mm-hmm. And that's, of course, what happened later on as well. That Yngwie wanted to take care of all the songwriting to make more publishing money, I guess, and stuff.
Yeah, I understand.